And so what is bowing? Bowing is a technique that you use to bring yourself also, once again, to the moment. Okay, and what's good about bowing is it really gets well with angry mind. If you have a mind that's angry, bowing is really good. To sit in meditation when you're angry, sometimes it's really difficult if you have a lot of anger. But bowing cuts through that. And why? Is because when you're bowing and you do a lot of bows, let's say, for instance, you're doing like what he's doing, 300 bows in the morning, and you're doing boom, bada boom, about 300 bows. When you get to like 150, you're really not thinking about those various thoughts, but your mind begins to caught up in what you're doing, and that's the whole point of bow. And what you do with that is as what Insock was talking about also, is that you digest your experience. So it's very important to know that you don't digest your experience with your thinking mind. Your thinking mind follows your sex, power, food, sleep, and money. Okay, and so that's what your desire mind follows all the time. But when you're huffing and puffing like that, then it kind of brings you just to this moment, to your don't know mind, your before thinking mind, the mind that is present and aware. And in that process, you can actually digest your experience. So somebody gets really angry at you, and you get really angry at them. Then you go and doing bows, and you notice that anger tends to dissipate quicker than if you sat down and thought about it. So the problem with sitting down and thinking about bowing is that you begin to dwell. Sitting down and thinking about your anger is you begin to dwell on your anger. And once you dwell on your anger, it grows and it grows. And before you know it, it can take you right to hell. And you can see that in this world. But if you bow and instead of dwelling on that anger, you're just bowing, then what happens is, yes, that bowing, that anger then gets digested. And so digested is like the anger appeared and it hit you. And then in your practice of bowing, you digest it and let it go. Okay, and from that you can actually get wisdom. So you have wisdom appear from that, and you know how to handle that situation better. But if you don't, and say you dwell on that anger, so that situation appears again, instead you're going to overreact, and maybe make a problem for that person and yourself. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot about bowing and how that brings you to your intuitive mind, your before thinking mind, and you can have some question like, how can I help my mother in a certain situation? How can I help my siblings in a certain situation? You keep that in mind a little bit, not dwelling on it, but you just kind of bring yourself to that point and bow. Okay, and then from there, some answer can kind of appear, and you might not even know the answer. You might not know or see the answer until actually the situation appears, and you handle it in a certain way. So that's because there's something that your intuitive mind grasps with that your conscious mind doesn't. So it's very important. Your conscious mind is all about I, my, and me, and that I, my, or me doesn't exist actually outside of your thinking. So that's a very important thing. Outside of your thinking, I, my, and me doesn't exist. So I think who I am. I'm Kwan Haeng and yeah. But every one of you there have a different idea about Kwan Haeng, right? So which Kwan Haeng is the true Kwan Haeng? That's kind of interesting point.